thank you everyone for being here today. We'd like to go ahead. This will be the agenda for this evening's meeting. And we want to go ahead and make sure that we provide as much time possible for today's discussion. So at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Nelson to call to order the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm Tom Nelson, chairperson of the Parent Advisory Committee. So I will officially call the meeting to order. And I'd like to say good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Parent Advisory Committee meeting. And I want to acknowledge that there is a lot of change for everyone, and these changes in our world are significant and they cause stress. So I think what can help us all is empathy, to take the stress we are feeling and to recognize that others are feeling just as much stress, if not more. So if we can take our empathy and use it as a tool for working together, as a norm for our meeting, let's assume goodwill. It can be more.
Did we lose Tom?
Tom, you're muted.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So anyway, it can be stressful to have meetings that are not in person. It is harder to empathize with a video image than being in person with people. So it may even be harder to empathize when there is only a voice without an image. And that is why I respectfully request that committee members and staff attending as employees turn on their web cameras, especially when speaking. However, we should acknowledge that there may be many reasons a person may not want to be may not want or be able to have a camera on. So again, we should assume goodwill, and that also not having a camera on is not meant to be any disrespect to our committee. So that concludes kind of my opening statement. And with that, I would like to welcome Kent Kern and see if our superintendent, Mr. Kern, would like to make any comments.
Thank you for that. And I would agree with what Tom said about these are different times and stressful times. It is definitely a new chapter. We're talking this week, and really every one of us, when you start a new job, you have new challenges. And this year, it's almost like everybody in the entire education system is starting a new job because we've really never gone through this environment before. And so I just want to say to all of you on the committee and others who have joined, we really appreciate your commitment to the district and your dedication for being here. And we look forward to the support and direction and guidance that you're going to help provide us for the rest of the year. And I just appreciate Lisa and her leadership, as well as the other longstanding committee members who continue to come back. And so I'll end my comments there, and I think I'm supposed to turn it over to Dr. McKibben.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We have 19 persons on the committee, one more who is here that will go before the board at the next board meeting. We've also have some both student and we're really looking forward to getting into the meat of this sort of thing. Though the name has been changed slightly, the information that we seek from you remains the same. You are one more opportunity for us to be our eyes and ears in the district and to represent various groups, because that's what the LCAP is about, is making sure that those people who are underrepresented, particularly the homeless, the foster youth, and the low-income folks, and the English learners are well represented on this group, and to make sure that our resources reflect that these people are targeted in ways that really help us move forward our agenda. That each meeting is going to be jam-packed. One of the reasons why you were selected is because we really do expect to hear from your voices. This is not a time to sit and listen. You really need to participate and be part of it. There aren't any wrong answers here. There's just thoughts, and we're going to end up having, I think, a very exciting product because you all will lend your voice and help us make our district and our service to our young people better. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Dr. McKibben. You see that takes us, I think, to agenda item number 3, visitor comments. So I guess, Laura, I'll let you handle and see if there's any visitors that want to make comments.
Yes, are there any visitors that would like to make a comment? Just raise your hand. I can call on you and you can come off of mute, or you can put something in the chat box. I do not see any hand raised. I'll give it about, let me check the chat box real quick. All right, so I do not see any hand raised and I don't see anything in the comment box. So we will turn it back over to the approval of the meeting minutes. Actually, we don't have a quorum tonight, so we will not be able to discuss and approve those minutes.
Okay. All right. So then I guess we're at agenda item number 5, introduction of new CAP members. So I would like to welcome the 4 new CAP LCAP PAC members, and also 5th member who should shortly become an official PAC member. So started off with Amber. And Amber, if there's a few things you'd like the committee to know about you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Busby. I work with Mutual Assistance Network. I'm also a 4th grade parent at Star King. I have been involved with the school district just over a year since my son transferred over into this district from Sac City. I have worked in education myself for a number of years and worked in nonprofits for a good 10 years. Man is my home. I'm loving it there. Yeah, I'm also part of the BCLC program. And I essentially am just part of the PAC because I am wanting to be all in the business. I don't know any other way to put it. I like to understand what's going on, and I like to be able to have my voice heard and influence for students who look like mine, and the students, as Mike named, that are oftentimes underrepresented.
Oh, thank you, and welcome, Amber. Let's see, Pamela, would you like to go next?
Hi, so my name is Pamela Fryer. I've been with the San Juan district since my son was in 2nd grade, and since then my daughter is also now in the ranks. So, and then I adopted my my niece and my nephew. So we went from 2 to 4, and all of them have had the opportunity of being within the school system, and it's fabulous. A few moments about me. I have worked with nonprofits. I am a scout leader. I am a merit badge counselor with Boy Scouts of America. It was no longer Boy Scouts, it's Scouting of America. And including that, I substitute teach, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to work under some of the best principals and staff ever. And Miss Kimber would absolutely know what I'm talking about. Lastly, hopefully by the end of 2021, I will also have my teaching credentials.
Oh.
Oh, thank you, Pamela. Welcome. Next, we have a student member of our committee, Beth.
Hi, my name is Beth. I've been with the San Juan district, or I've been in the district since 2nd grade, and I'm now a senior at Rio Americana High School. where I'm part of the Civic House program, which has been one of the most impactful experiences of my life. I am involved in a lot of extracurriculars. I'm part of a nonprofit that teaches high school students how to lobby and how to advocate for bills and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much all about me.
Well, thank you, and welcome, Beth. Our other student member is Nora. So Nora and Stephanie are sharing a camera. So please say a few words about yourself, Nora. You're muted. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Nope.
No, speak up. I can barely hear you.
Louder.
Louder.
Now. Yes.
That's it. Yeah, that's better. There.
Is the audio working? No.
Yeah. We can hear you barely. Move closer to the mic if you can.
It was working earlier.
There you go. That's better. That's better.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, my name is Eleanor Colbert. Please call me Nora. Thank you for nominating me for the PAC Community Board as a student member for the 2020-2021 school year. Can you hear us now? Were you able to get that?
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you. So let's see. I think now let's see. Phyllis, who is a nominee, and so Phyllis, you want to say a few words about yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, coming through loud and clear. Oh, you're muted.
How's that?
There. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm a retired educator. We moved from Sonoma County here to Sacramento a year ago, and we have a 12-year-old daughter who is attending 7th grade at Andrew Carnegie. So I was involved in district business. I was the foster youth and homeless liaison for the county. And so I have a specific interest in that area. So I'm looking forward to participating.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, let's see, in the interest of time, I'm hoping that our LCAP PAC members that have been on the committee for a while may reach out and introduce themselves over email to our new members. But since we have a pretty full meeting, I think we'll move on, and I'll turn it over now to agenda item 6, building community activity. So I'll give that to you.
Tom, it's Laura. We now have quorum. Just had a couple of members join us. Would you like to circle back to the minutes?
Okay, sure, yes. So if, hopefully since we have quorum now and the minutes were sent out ahead of time with encouraging people to go ahead and read them, at this time I will go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
A motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Pamela. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Heather Gonzalez, I've got a second. So now is there any discussion on approving the minutes? Any, in case anybody noticed any errors or mistakes? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call for a vote. All of those in favor of approving the minutes that are on the PAC, if you can, I guess either, you see thumbs up on the screen, raise your hand on the screen. Yeah. Or
keep them raised until I can go through it. For some reason, all the PACs didn't stay together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Amber, are you okay with approving? I can't see ya.
Yes, it went away. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. All righty. We've got, everybody has agreed to approve.
Okay, okay, with that, the minutes are officially approved, which is actually, I think, the only action item we have on the agenda. So the only thing we'll be voting on tonight. So then that, I guess we'll go back to agenda item 6 and our building community activity. So, and
all right. Hey, everyone. This is Heather Gonzalez. For those of you who have not met with me yet, hopefully we'll meet soon. I serve as co-chair currently alongside with Tom and all of you great folks here. Something that is super important to us in terms of our values as a collective is leading with relationship and having just a cohesive community. And something that has posed a challenge to that, of course, is this virtual forum that we're on, but we wanted to ensure, in spite of all of the things that we have against us in terms of things to accomplish, to lead in building relationship. And so I have kind of a silly icebreaker for us today, so if you all can entertain me. Basically, it's really short and sweet. If you can identify an animal that, if out of any animal that you would like to be, what would it be and why? And so if you have a hard time identifying with an animal, please feel free to choose a color. Really, we're just wanting to know a little bit about who you are, and this is a fun way to get to know each other. I will do my best to try to identify all of the PAC folks and navigate these screens. And I'll go ahead and start off. If I was an animal, I have determined a long time ago that I would be a honey badger. Super random, I know, but when I saw a video of a honey badger, I was like, that's me, basically. And so they're tough as hell. They don't bother anyone. They just kind of navigate their life. They eat bugs. I don't eat bugs, but they're just, they're just cool animals, really, and kind of fearless. But I've seen them fighting tigers, but they never win, but they don't lose often either, and so I'm cool with that. So that's me. I'll go ahead, and what I'll do is on my screen, I'll go ahead and introduce the next person, and we'll just go down the line that's on the pack. So I have Tom next. Tom, what animal would you be and why?
okay, well, that's a good question, and I have a few. I think what came to mind was an animal that could both fly and swim and could be on the land. So what came to mind was a duck. So the ability to, I guess, fly and be almost, fly almost anywhere in the world, as well as being comfortable in the water and also being able to be comfortable on land. So that's why I would choose a duck.
Thank you, Tom. All right, and next on my screen, I have Pamela. Pamela, what kind of animal would you be and why?
I believe that I would be the black bear, largely because they look intimidating. They are constantly interfering with what is going on around them. They're actually quite inquisitive, and they're scared to death of the most random things, which is kind of what happens with me. Is somebody will startle me out of the blue and they were standing there the entire time. But they're also very funny, and they will decide, you're my friend today, and they'll follow you around and just decide what they want to do when they want to do it. But they are also fiercely protective of their young, and so they're just kind of all over the place.
I love that. Awesome. Thank you, Pamela. Let me see. Next on my screen for PAC, I have Miss Amber. Hey, Am, what kind of animal would you be and why?
I would be a butterfly, which I realize is an insect not an animal, but I would be a butterfly because they represent change and they embrace change. They're forced to embrace change. I also think they're very beautiful and they get to see the world in a short amount of time and fly.
I love that. Thank you, Amber. All right, I have up next Miss Beth. What kind of animal would you be and why?
I guess I would be a llama, just 'cause you don't really hear about them a lot. I guess compared to like other animals, and they surprise you, like you kind of forget, oh, like llamas are a thing. And then when you remember, it's like a nice surprise. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Miss Beth. All right, we have a twofer. So I have Miss Stephanie and then Miss Nola, or in whichever order you'd like to go.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How about this? Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Yes. Are you able to hear me, Heather?
Yep, I could hear you.
Okay. So we're trying to debate on what animal. I think a hippo. Because yeah, like Nora said, I like watermelon, but you think they're always kind of like watching, and you think they're not fast at things, especially at speed. So I really like hippos when I was little. So I always like hippos. And people don't mess with me. So, what's your animal? Either a dolphin or a dog. She picked a dolphin.
Cute.
She's intelligent. That's
right.
it.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate you. All right, now next I have Keenan.
Hi, you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
I believe that I would be a polar bear, and that's because they're forced to adapt, especially in the Arctic. They have to go and find new ways to hunt, especially with fish and everything being frozen over. It's a lot harder for them.
That's right. Love it. Thank you, Keenan. Next I have Caroline.
Hello.
Hi.
I would pick a unicorn because to me it stands for innovation, strength, and creativity.
Absolutely. And I love your spirit of, if we're going to imagine, go all the way hard or go home. I love that. All right. Thank you. I'm going to have to switch screens real quick to see. Who do I have? Oh my goodness. Jacqueline, I see that you put something in the chat. Did you want to expand on that a little bit?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I put tiger because I feel they are very like fast, and as prey, as they're very alert, they watch people before, well, they watch their prey before they pounce. So I kind of feel like I'm very observant. I watch people before I make a move, before I start talking to them, before I start knowing more. I kind of just watch and observe everything around me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And then I see Miss Damaris here as well. Miss Damaris, what kind of animal would you be and why? All right, maybe she is stuck. In the meantime, did I get all of our PAC members? Did I miss anyone? If I missed you, please feel free to chime in or raise your hand and we'll make sure that you get to participate. All right.
So it's me, Zena.
Oh, hi. Thank you. What kind of animal would you be, Miss Zena?
So I'll be an owl because it represents luck and I can see in the night. I like this.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Any other PAC members I may have missed? All right. Well, thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you all in person, and you know, I appreciate and am so excited for our new PAC members and to see our returning PAC members as well. And I will go ahead and hand it back to Tom. Or actually, would that be back to Lisa?
I think that would. Yes, Heather, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And thank you again for sharing. We're going to have those images in mind now as we move forward. So that's going to be exciting. So good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Borrego, and I am the Director of Family and Community Engagement for San Juan Unified. I have the great fortune to be working with an incredible team and also with you all, the LCAP PAC, this year to support our students and our communities and our schools as we move through this very unusual year. But I am excited to be here with you tonight and to begin to share our presentation related to the local continuity and attendance plan. My apologies, they use the same acronym as the LCAP. So we're going to go ahead and share screen so we can go ahead and begin our presentation. Let me move that here. So we are going to go ahead and begin. So just for your information, obviously this is being recorded this evening, and this recording will be available for the public. And also this presentation will be posted on the LCAP website tomorrow, so you'll have access to this information as well. So this evening we're going to share with you information about the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, my apologies, and a little bit about how we've come to be in this year, and also information related to what it is covering as we move into this school year. So just a little background for those of you that are joining us this evening. We did have a bit of an informational presentation on this at the last PAC meeting, but essentially when the school entered into school closures due to the COVID-19 pandemic, legislation was established under Senate Bill 98 that changed the way in which our school districts were going to be conducting their business, in particular for the 2021 school year. The Senate Bill 98 focuses on the items that are highlighted on the slide this evening that mention information about how to address distance learning and modified in-person, hybrid, and instructional models. So how are we going to be serving our students in this very different environment? How are we going to make sure that we are supporting our students with disabilities? How are we going to address any of the changes that might happen in staffing as it relates to a new way of working in this distance learning environment or in this modified environment that isn't typically with staff at schools every day? Also, how do we look at instructional days and minutes to ensure that our students are receiving the best instruction and the appropriate amount of time related to their grade levels and in their studies? And in particular, and what we'll be talking a lot about this evening, is the establishment of the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And that Learning and Continuity and Attendance Plan is something that is now replaced for only the school year of 2021, is the roadmap and the report in which school districts are sharing how they are going about implementing supports and services for students. Just really quickly, this also Senate bill covers information related to early childhood education and just other miscellaneous items related to implementation and operations related to schools. One thing that's very important to note about the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan is this plan is not like the Local Control Accountability Plan. This plan is an individualized plan that is designed solely for the purposes of this year, at least as of right now, for the 2021 school year. And this plan is intended to provide school communities, parents, students, and staff information related to how school districts went about developing a plan for the upcoming school year. So the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, in essence, is a memorialization of all of the planning that has taken place and that has been underway since really the school closure of last year. So the information that we'll be sharing related to stakeholder engagement and feedback will go back as far as when we actually began the school closure. But again, keeping that in mind as you are listening to the presentation, that this is really sharing with our community how we as a school district are going about moving forward in this 2021 school year. The continuity and attendance plan, its purpose is very, very clear, and these are the guiding kind of the guiding areas that are intended to be kept in mind as the plan has been developed, and that is how do school districts address the gaps in learning that students may be experiencing as a result of distance learning, not being connected to their school or to their teachers directly, or adjusting to this new learning landscape. How are we also conducting ongoing and meaningful stakeholder engagement that ensures that we are having regular conversations and collecting regular feedback from our families and our students and our communities that are most vulnerable, making sure that we are keeping them present and in the front of our mind as we develop our plan. Also maintaining transparency, providing our community with the information that provides you the direction and the actions and the services taken by our district leadership and community to support our students. And then also uniquely calling out our unduplicated pupils and making sure that we are addressing our pupils with unique needs, our students who are experiencing homelessness, our foster homeless youth, and also our English language learners. And also, how do we provide that access to necessary devices and connectivity for distance learning? We do realize that that is now, devices have replaced feel as though they've replaced our textbooks. So it's very important that we address how we go about providing connectivity and devices for our students. And then also, how are we providing resources and support to address our students and staff mental health and well-being? This is unprecedented times, as Tom had mentioned, and then Board Member McKibben and Superintendent Kern, and I'm sure we can all relate and feel that, unfortunately, on almost probably a regular basis. So that importance of making sure that we are looking at identifying those supports for our students and families, and then regularly ensuring that our students have access to school meals as they would under any other circumstance if they were in the actual school building. There were several different things that were created and generated as guiding documents as school districts were asked to develop their reopening plans for the 2021 school year. One thing that is important to note, and why we bring this document to share here, is the California Department of Ed developed a guiding document that helps school districts think about various actions within their plans to help them reopen their campuses for the school year. So again, while there are a variety of different circumstances that determine decisions that were made to either move into a full distance learning model or a hybrid model or perhaps in person, there was guidance that school districts were provided through the California Department of Ed and are part of our consideration in the development of this plan. And so we wanted to make sure to acknowledge that in the development, our learning continuity plan. There are 8 particular sections that are related to our learning continuity plan that you will see in our draft and that we'll share a little bit about more with you this evening. As you can see, they relate to our stakeholder engagement, which again is very familiar to all of you who are on the LCAP PAC. Stakeholder engagement is a very consistent part of the local control accountability plan process, and it was still remaining a very important part of this process as well. Obviously, with the transition to distance learning, there is this call out that we are providing some examples of what in-person instructional offerings would look like. once we are in that place of returning. Also, examples of distance learning and how we are servicing our students in that area, mental health and social emotional well-being, again, for our students and staff. Also, how are we engaging with our students and families as we are trying to get connected in this what feels like a very disjointed situation. Also, how are we making sure that we are working specifically to serve our our foster youth, our English learners, or our low-income students, and how are we ensuring that we are seeing them for the needs that may be a bit different than those of other students and ensuring that they have the resources they need. Also, with pupil learning loss, it's the case that through this transition into a new learning model, there would be loss in that transition from moving to an in-class instructional model to a distance learning model. So how are we going to be focusing on that pupil learning loss and hoping to close that gap and limit that loss as we are currently in this distance learning model and learning how to do that better so that our kids are maintaining their progress in their grade levels. And then finally, also, how are we addressing nutrition? One thing that is wanted to make sure that you're all aware of is stakeholder engagement feedback is, again, as mentioned before, very critical to any development of any plans, and it's no different for the learning continuity plan. We are asked as a school district to ensure that we are engaging with multiple stakeholders and having multiple levels of conversations so that we are soliciting feedback from those groups and also making sure that we are maintaining those relationships that were developed as part of the LCAP PAC development last year, but also knowing that it's important that, especially in this time of uncertainty and never having implemented something quite as unusual as a distance learning plan, that we are having constant feedback with our schools, with our families, with our students, and with one another on a regular basis. So for the purposes of the learning continuity plan, that is no different. As we go through this planning process, we are soliciting recommendation and comments from the public. We are presenting the plan to you, the LCAP PAC, and our DLAC. We will also be taking the plan to public hearing for public comment. That will be taking place on September 8th. And then for adoption at the public hearing, which is scheduled for September 22nd. And I also want to make sure that for those PAC members that are here tonight, whether or not you're new or returning, as part of the responsibility that the school district has to ensure that the voices of the PAC and DLAC are connected to this work, you have an opportunity after we make our presentation. We will be doing breakout sessions where PAC members will be placed in breakout sessions and will be guided through a series of questions by facilitators, and also to have an opportunity to ask questions of the superintendent. And we have a responsibility, the superintendent has a responsibility to ensure that we respond back to those written questions, back to the PAC, to ensure that we are maintaining open communication. Quickly, just want to share that there was initial stakeholder feedback that took place immediately after our school closures. This being such an unusual circumstance and certainly something that no one has ever experienced before, immediately it was important to start to make connections and communicate and solicit feedback from our parents, from our teachers, from our students, as well as conducting listening sessions and thought exchanges. There are multiple ways in which individuals and groups can provide feedback, whether or not it's through public comment at our board meeting, or whether or not it's through listening sessions or conversations with individuals at school site staff. This information did help to inform the beginning guidance for our school reopening, and definitely shaped information that you'll be hearing more about in this presentation. Our current feedback efforts, as again, is with the same spirit and intention of continuing the stakeholder feedback loops, and want to make sure that everyone here knows that those will continue to go on even after the learning continuity plan is gone through its process and approval. That commitment of maintaining stakeholder feedback is critical to us and to our district, and you can be assured that that will be something we will be doing on several levels. But here you'll see that we are engaging with our students and families and community members. We are utilizing our virtual platforms through Zoom. We are also just releasing an online survey. And we are also conducting one-on-one phone interviews with families and students. We are utilizing translation as translation is needed and trying to be thoughtful in our consideration of those individuals who may have English as not their primary language. The information that we're collecting has partially been reported in the current plan, but will continue to be gathered as one of these sessions today will be one of those sessions where we will collect that data and ensure that it is reported in our learning continuity plan as part of that feedback loop. So our next steps is to continue this ongoing focus of stakeholder engagement and ensure that it is timely and one that is happening on a frequent basis. And so I'm excited to be partnering with the PAC and to be working with Heather and Tom so that we can create a real robust and a very open dialogue between us, and also hoping that through your connections with your school sites and with the different relationships that are developed by our PAC members, that we also engage other individuals to be part of this process. So with that, I will hand it over to our Senior Director of Professional Learning Innovations, Kristen Schnepp.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to take over from here for a little bit. We have a lot of information to cover, and so bear with me because it might seem dense at time, but really what we've done is built this plan based on the feedback that we've gotten from our community. And there were several lessons that we learned last spring based on the feedback from students, parents, and staff. And throughout this presentation, we're going to cover specific actions that have been planned for implementation in response to the themes that we heard, specifically around reducing variability. What we heard from many of you and from our community was we needed more consistent and structured opportunities. And so we heard you in the spring. And then we also heard that we needed fewer platforms and more consistent training around those platforms because there was frustration in the system. We also learned that we needed to improve safety nets, daily participation and tracking, and we needed to have structured protocols that we could use to find and support students who are not engaging in classroom activity. We also learned that we needed to strengthen our school to home connections. We really heard that while you and community members were receiving information oftentimes at the district level, it was harder to get information from those school sites. And so, you know, those were one of the areas that we committed to doing better in. We also said we needed to build in more frequent, meaningful opportunities for stakeholders to provide feedback. So to really use that continuous improvement cycle where we're listening and then trying to improve based on the feedback that we're getting. And then support specifically for practitioners during this time. Like Tom said earlier, it is so new and it's very stressful. So encouraging and supporting our practitioners to try new things on and engage in new professional development to learn new skills. So really, these were the four defining areas that kind of led us as we moved forward into this new planning process.
Kristen, you can go ahead and you can move your slides.
Did you give me access?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Lisa, do you want me to share screen? Because I don't, hold on, maybe.
Somewhere.
Okay, there, got it. Okay. So for this slide, during the summer, staff at all levels worked collaboratively with each of our associations and site level leaders in preparation for the upcoming school year. And in each of these scenarios, families will have options. So no matter what level or learning continuum we're in, whether it's distance learning or if we're able to move to a modified in-person learning model, we have options so that families are able to select what really does best fit the needs based on their constraints and barriers that they are dealing with on a daily basis. Lisa, I'm having trouble with, because my monitor, hold on, let me see if I can go back. I jumped ahead. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I didn't see the thing at the bottom. It was just jumping ahead on me. Okay. So what I want to start with is our in-person model. And as we began to plan for in-person learning this summer, and that's really what our hope was, that we were going to be able to come back together as a community. The feedback that we heard really centered around the protocols for safety. And we heard that families, you know, that was really important. And it was also important to our staff and to our teachers as well. So in addition to that, we also saw that high quality instruction was something that we needed to be able to focus on to meet the individual needs of our students, but also have really structured instructional minutes per day where teachers and students were able to come together. And then also have structured schedules, and then have a single point of entry, because one of the areas that was frustrating for families was having so many different platforms that were being used for our communication and for gathering information around lesson plans. So for our modified in-person model, given our current guidelines, the in-person instruction isn't an option. However, it's important to develop structures that are a continuum that will allow us to seamlessly move from one learning model to the other. And the focus of these models is to continue to place students at the center of the learning. Once schools are able to resume, guidelines for hygiene, social distancing, and health screening will go into effect. And students will attend school in a modified schedule with both synchronous and asynchronous time. Students will attend 2 days of in-person classes with cohort A and 2 days of in-person for cohort B. For special education, our plan is for students to have 4 days of in-person with 1 day of remote learning. The daily participation for those students would be in online interaction, whether it's class meetings or student studies and supports, but really giving our special ed students more opportunity. We've heard from the community that our students are struggling and need more interaction and one-on-one support. For distance learning, themes that came out were daily live synchronous learning, instruction to meet state minute requirements, the idea of building asynchronous lesson banks where teachers can then use those lessons for students who are not in the classroom with them, and then instructional technology software tools, so to have more consistent support for our families, our teachers, and our students as they engage in the lessons, and then building in protected collaboration time. So here's an example of distance learning for elementary. And within the elementary distance learning format, students receive daily live synchronous instruction in addition to synchronous instruction from their classroom teacher. This differs from what was previously implemented in the spring, and that each student will have daily live contact with their teacher. And the chart on the screen represents the agreed upon daily synchronous and then asynchronous minutes that each student will receive for elementary through K-8. Here's an example of our secondary distance learning format. And within this model, within the secondary distance learning model, students will receive, I'm jumping ahead. Students will receive daily live instruction following a schedule with their teachers, which differs from what secondary students experienced in the spring. And within our distance learning format, all secondary schools are on a uniform schedule. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays and Fridays, students receive 30 minutes of daily live synchronous instruction within each class period. So they have that opportunity to meet with each of their teachers. The additional 15 minutes per period of synchronous instruction is planned and implemented by the classroom teacher, and it's really appropriate for what their lessons are based on. And another improved feature of the secondary distance learning model is that teachers are available throughout the entire class period if students need help and support. Within the Wednesdays, if you see that on the chart, this is a shortened class schedule with each period consisting of 15 minutes of live synchronous instruction. This creates room for individual follow-up with students and families, or if teachers want to have small group support from service providers are also able to use this time. And then this is also the time where teachers are able to come together for collaboration on Wednesdays. The next slide we see here is the next section is around lesson design and support of our practitioners. So working on our final theme around improving supports for practitioners, we built themes around distance learning lessons that are aligned to essential standards. There are so many standards that teachers cover throughout the year, and what we did in the spring was decide upon those essential standards that are key for students to move to the next level and skill. We also expanded instructional technology software tools. We provided accessible professional development offerings, and also, like I said, built in that collaboration time on Wednesdays for our practitioners. This is a slide of some of the modules that our teachers that built the lessons went through. So prior to building lessons, which I'll talk about in the next slide, the practitioners that were selected attended training online and were able to come together around consistent templates for building these lessons. Here's an example of a lesson from the lesson bank. So we hired 80 teachers to build lessons, and from that work, we had 900 elementary lessons developed, 250 lessons for middle school, and 450 high school lessons that were really high caliber lessons. We developed lessons that were around English language arts, mathematics, our English language development, social studies, science, VAPA, and then also mod severe lessons for our special education teachers, as well as dual immersion lessons for Thomas Edison, world language for our French and Spanish classes, and this was all TK-12. So we were able to really develop high quality lessons that our teachers are able to use and access. We also increased our technology tools and purchased additional Chromebooks. We purchased additionally 10,000 Chromebooks and over 6,000 tablets or touch devices for our littles for TK1. In hearing from our community, there was a need to have something that was a little more user-friendly for the TK1 group. So we were able to purchase those, and they are not here yet, but they are on their way. We also purchased additional hotspots and purchased some high leverage technology tools. And here are the ones that we purchased that our teachers were most excited about. Kami is a tool that allows teachers to create interactive assignments using PDFs that they had already had. They make them interactive so that students can write on them and use those documents. We also purchased Screencastify, and this is a tool that not only allows teachers to record, edit, and share videos, but also students are able to use this feature. Pear Deck is another tool that our teachers were really interested in using, and this goes along with Google Classroom and Google Slides and creates much more engaging, interesting slides for students. Specifically for our English language learners and our students with disabilities, the Read and Write for Chrome this was a tool that really gives a lot of accessibility features for our students, and our teachers are really excited about learning more about read write for Chrome. The next thing we're going to talk about is pupil learning loss. And in this section of the report, one of the things we have to look at is given what happened in the spring with COVID and having to close our schools, we understood that there was going to be learning loss. And so one of the things we needed to do was immediately at the beginning of school, find out where our students were. So in order to determine students' learning loss, in collaboration with SJTA, we developed a plan for assessment. And the plan really focuses on 3 areas, and that's pupil learning loss strategies, the assessments that we will give to be able to track and monitor our students, and then specifically what supports will we give to our foster youth, our English learners, our low income, and then our students with disabilities. So these are all called out in the plan. So in order to support our students, we are giving teachers options for assessments. And the plan is that in grades K through 8, we're using iReady. We gave the teachers a choice of iReady Map or their own lessons or developed assessments that they wanted to give. As of right now, the majority of the teachers are choosing iReady. And this is an online assessment that is very, very engaging for students and teachers, and it individualizes lessons based on where students are in those assessments. IXL for grades 9 through 12 is something that is similar to iReady, but geared for high school students. So the ELD, we will be using iReady for grades 9 through 12 as well as K through 8. And then for English language arts in high school, the English teachers will be developing their own assessments in order to assess that loss. After giving the assessment, the strategies that we will be using to address learning loss really focus on, first and foremost, high quality first instruction in the classroom. So making sure that our students are getting what they need from those lessons. Also then using small group instruction and tutoring. For our students who are English language learners, we will have bilingual instructional assistants and cultural brokers who are able to help with small group instruction or tutoring. We'll utilize Wednesdays for intervention, and then also access those technology tools when appropriate to help support our students. And then we have to look at what are the extended supports for our English language learners, our students with disabilities, and our low income students. For our English language learners, a lot of the supports will be built around the assessment and the results of those assessments, and then being able to be proactive and address the needs that come up from those assessments. So in K-12, they're going to be focusing on really looking at foundational skills, vocabulary, and then really individualizing plans for those students. And in grades 3 through 5, they're going to be using those assessments to build intervention needs. And then in grades 6 through 8 through 9 through 12, they're going to be really looking at those assessments as a placement tool so that they're able to help students with the instructional materials, the supplemental materials they use called Inside. So the assessments are going to be crucial to that placement, to making sure that the supports are in place. For students with disabilities, we'll be doing ongoing progress monitoring, especially on growth around their IEPs, specialized instruction, summer intervention, before and after school tutoring, in-class differentiation, and really looking at the IEPs and holding IEPs to discuss what the impacts of school closure are, and then to determine whether compensatory education is appropriate or if some other shifts need to be made. For our low income foster youth and homeless students, we're looking at summer intervention and reteaching programs, before and after school tutoring, and then also specific counselors, intervention specialists, and instructional aides that can support students who are showing some learning loss. The next part is really around those increased or improved services. So specifically for our English language learners, our foster youth, our low income, and then our students with disabilities. So to build on the last few slides, the English language learners, when we're looking at increased and improved services, we're looking at making sure that we're scheduling and allocating resources to make sure that our students are getting their needs met. We're looking at translation and interpreters for ELAC and DLAC so that our parents are more connected. Another highlight is just professional development. These sessions will be for teachers on meeting the needs of ELs during a distance learning environment, which is very challenging for our ELD teachers. And then also building the district TOSAs, our teachers that are on special assignment, having them collaborate with with colleagues to do some cross learning so that we have a wider variety of staff who are ready to meet the needs of our English language learners. For foster youth, we're looking at before and after school tutoring, intersessions and Saturday schools, really again focusing on that in-class differentiation, using breakout sessions while we're in distance learning, using instructional aids and some of those technology resources that we have available, and then specifically for foster youth, providing one-on-one tutoring when appropriate, with the goal of making sure our students are on track to graduate. Low income students, Title I funded counselors, intervention specialists, again, tutoring, and then increased intervention supports through our multi-tiered systems of support, and just accessing anything and anyone we can to make sure that our students are getting the supports they need. For our students with disability, we're looking at the individualized distance learning plan. This is a plan that will build in additional supports in the IEP to be activated during emergency situations such as COVID. A delivery of services to support needs, so mild, moderate, and moderate severe programs, making sure that instructional minutes are being met, that students are receiving the services that are called out in their IEPs, and also the virtual and in-person assessments that have not been approved at this time pending the CDE guidelines, working those areas out. So those are some of the highlights. Okay, safety nets. In addition to the increased services, we're also looking at safety net teams. Teams are comprised of site administrators, counselors, social workers, teachers, and classified staff. And it's really focusing on, during distance learning, how do we make sure that our students' needs are being met, and that we are able to make contact and make sure our students are being engaged in classes. Teams will identify and remove barriers for students so that they can fully engage with their teachers during distance learning. Because one of the things we heard in the spring was that our students were not engaging as much as we wanted them to. And so these safety net teams are working really diligently to make sure that we are helping remove barriers that are keeping them from those opportunities. For mental health and social emotional support, we engaged with something called Care Solace. And Care Solace connects communities to reliable, high quality mental health care services. And it's available 24/7. It's available to students, staffs, and family. It launched on August 13th. And staff will receive training on the referral process so that we can help students. And then there's also on the website links and information, and it's Get Help, so that students and staff can go right to the website to see what services are available. For nutrition, this is carrying on from the spring and during the summer as well. Distribution is currently at 44 sites. It's Monday through Friday. We changed it so that breakfast and lunch are both take home, and it's open from 7 to 8:30 in the morning. There is a standard cost supply, and it's free and reduced for students who qualify. And we also have the link in here for anyone that has not filled that out and is interested in accessing those services. The next section is pupil and family engagement. And I believe Lisa is going to, I'm turning it back over to Lisa to discuss this section.
Thank you, Kristen. So pupil and family engagement and outreach. As we support our community, we recognize that each family is in a situation facing a unique set of circumstances. This is something that none of us could have anticipated. So the goal of our school sites and the district is to provide as many supports as possible to ensure students are actively engaged and families are feeling connected to their schools. One thing that we do know that comes with that is the importance of, again, that stakeholder engagement, is being able to hear from our communities and from our students and families how things are going and what it is that we maybe need to be doing or changing in order to be responsive. Those two areas that we are reporting on in our plan speak specifically around our daily attendance and accounting practices, as well as a re-engagement plan for our students. New to distance learning this year and improving safety nets is a systemic daily attendance accounting for synchronous instruction. Each day, student attendance in live Zoom sessions will be taken. For elementary, it will be once a day, and for secondary attendance, it will be taken per period. Per Senate Bill 98, student participation in online activities such as Zoom is one way to account for attendance, but there are other ways identified to also account for a student's daily participation, such as the completion of regular assignments, completion of assessments, or contact with a student or guardian. As part of our re-engagement plan, one thing I forgot to mention, my apology, is that teachers are currently responsible for taking attendance. However, we are working on developing solutions for automating attendance accounting in the distance learning program. In addition to daily attendance accounting, we will also be tracking student engagement through a weekly engagement record that combines information related to daily participation with the tracking of assignments. This record-keeping system is currently in development as we await for auditing guidance from the state. And utilizing our safety net attendance tracking system, we're also re-engaging our efforts in providing a tiered system of support. This was slightly referenced here on the bottom. Tier 1 represents site-level support and is initial response when attendance or engagement data is flagged. At this level, the teacher, front office, and school supports contact families to inquire about what is happening and offer support. So in summary, this entire strategy is with the intention of trying to identify early how we might be able to identify those students that may not be connecting into their classes, and how we are developing a strategy to support them in that process. And then with our re-engagement plan, what is part of the crux of that is ensuring that we and those safety net teams that Mrs. Schnepp spoke about are maintaining regular contact with students and family, that they are connecting to ensure students are provided with the technology and the supports and resources that they need, that relationships are being built to ensure that students and families have meaningful opportunities to connect with staff, and then also that there are ways for students and families to authentically engage in school activities within their local communities. And this is going to be something that will be ongoing, and something, again, through our constant conversations with community members and parents and students, that we will continue to evolve and learn from. So I'd like to go ahead and hand it over back to Mrs. Schnepp.
Oh, just if I may just interrupt here for a second. As going through the slides, I see that some members, I think, are already doing this, but as people viewing the presentation, if there's questions that they have, I think they can type in their questions in the chat. So that way, I think it allows us to get some feedback and input at the same time as the presentation. Is that, so does that fit with the way that we can do things?
Certainly, we can collect all of the questions and comments that are being posted in the chat, and those will be part of the feedback of tonight's focus group. Yes.
Okay, and people can type those in anytime during the presentation, correct?
Absolutely, and again, we are going to be moving into breakout sessions in a few minutes, so that will also be the opportunity for everyone to be able to share those comments as well. So yes, those are two ways that participants can do that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Excuse me. Thank you, Tom. I'm Laura.
Okay, so the next section we're going to look at is the reopening of schools and the site area focus. In response to feedback from families regarding the level of engagement that was happening at school sites, a targeted focus will be placed on parent supports, tracking and monitoring attendance in order to support student learning, build those safety nets that we talked about earlier, mitigating learning loss, stakeholder engagement, and then classroom support. So around these areas, our high schools, our elementaries, and our middle schools were charged with creating work groups that could focus on supporting our students and our families. And so what I want us to do is we're going to be highlighting a few schools that are really doing some amazing pupil and stakeholder engagement, just to highlight the hard work that is happening at those schools. So the first school we're going to look at is Greer Elementary. And at Greer, one of the really interesting things they're doing is it's child care center outreach. They partnered with the child care staff to train them on navigating Chromebook, Portal, and provided a hotspot to assist students in accessing their Zooms. So it's that partnership that they created, along with apartment outreaches, where they've created communication coordinators at each of the apartment complexes in the community. And they're able to act as messengers and really get the information to the community that is so desperately needed at times. And then they also really looked at their level of support and offerings for families that might have different work schedules. And so their office is open at night, one time a week. They have Saturday hours, and then they also are holding adult ELD classes via Zoom to support families. Greer really has been a leader in community building and partnership. And so we just wanted to highlight a few of those key areas where they're really making their community feel welcome and true partnerships. At Sylvan Middle School, they are doing quite a bit as well to both support students and families. They're doing one-on-one breakout sessions for students who are struggling. So they're able to really individualize that support. They also make phone calls, emails, and home visits in the effort to connect students and families and make sure everyone had the technology they needed, headphones, textbook, planners, and even school supplies were delivered. They also created, this I think is so interesting, a virtual calming room. And it's on their website, and it's for students in addition to self-referral, so that they're able to get the social emotional support that they need, and also access that online tool if needed. And then teachers can request to have support. They have quite a bit of support staff at Sylvan. And so if teachers are not feeling strong with maybe Zoom or breakout sessions, they have a large support staff that have been trained in Zoom and Google Classroom and are just there to sit in on a class with them and help students feel connected. And then at Mesa Verde High School, they're doing really targeted outreach and using a wide variety of staff members. They have weekly meetings with the principal. So twice a week, Mr. Bross in the morning or in the evening is available to provide updates and listen and ask questions about concerns. And really, he's building that open door policy where parents are feeling more comfortable to really share some of the struggles, and so are students. For student support, they have a caseload. So whether you're a maybe you work in the office, maybe you're somebody that is a campus monitor or a rec aide. They are really utilizing all staff members to be those people that can make phone calls, emails, and just check in to make sure that the students are attending and engaging in school. And then the last thing we wanted to highlight was the coordinated communication effort. They are just doing social media blitz. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever the students are using, they are really trying to get their messages out through many different platforms so that families feel connected. So we're in the spring. Schools were struggling with how to make those connections. We now have a very targeted plan at each school site on how to focus on those connections between the school and the family. And that is the end of the presentation. And now Lisa's going to take it back over to talk about the feedback activity.
So thank you very much for listening to the presentation regarding the Learning Continuity Plan. And in an effort to ensure that we're able to gather feedback from all of our PAC participants, as well as any visitors that are currently on our Zoom this evening, we are going to move into our feedback sessions at this time so that we can collect the feedback and comments from the presentation that you've heard, as well as for those members who have reviewed the Learning Continuity Plan and may have additional comments that they would like to add. So what we're going to do next is we're going to be placing our LCAP PAC members into breakout rooms. For those of you that are visitors, you will also be placed in a breakout room and will be given the same questions as well as the same opportunity to provide your feedback and comments for the superintendent, so we can ensure that everyone's voice is captured. We will have facilitators in every breakout room who will have a Google document that you will be able to view. And as you are having a dialogue with the facilitators, they will be documenting your comments and ensuring that we are capturing the information that you are sharing with us so that it can be documented and utilized for feedback for the continuity plan, as well as to ensure that we have the accurate questions that you may have of our superintendent so that we could provide that written response. There will be time for share out after we finish with the breakout groups. So in an effort to ensure, especially since we're not in the same room together, we will make sure that every breakout group will have an opportunity to share a few of the items that came up in the discussion so that other groups and other members can hear the conversations of other individuals. Please know that all of the feedback that is being collected today will also be documented and will be available to the PAC. So as part of the meeting minutes, so you will receive all the information that we are collecting. So I can assure you that that information will be available to you. And then we will collect any questions for the superintendent that will also be identified through your breakout groups and ensure that information is reported back for response. So with that, we're going to go ahead and Laura, have our PAC members and our visitors move into our breakout rooms. And for your information, the breakout rooms will be 30 minutes.
Yes, and I will also set a timer and I'll pop in and let you know how much time is left on the clock. Before I break everybody out, I have somebody that has called in on an iPhone. It says iPhone. Could you, are you willing to take your mute off and identify yourself so I know which room to put you in? It just says iPhone. There we go. Thank you.
It's me, Zena, I think.
Okay, Zena, there we go. All right, so I need to move you, Zena. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And I just need to make one more adjustment and then I will move everybody. All right, I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and move everybody to breakout rooms and I'll pop in and give you a I'll broadcast and let you know how much time you have left in your room. Ready? Here we go. Hi, Katie, can you come off of mute and identify yourself, please? right, looks like everybody is rejoining us. Still waiting for a few more folks. They're all coming in. All right, looks like we've got everybody back.
Great. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to be in the breakout groups. We do realize that 30 minutes can go very quickly and may not have captured all of the information or discussions that was being had. However, we do want to make note that any information that was collected in those breakout groups and or any information that you would like to provide to myself or Laura, to Tom or to Heather as well, we will collect that information and ensure that it is captured and incorporated in any of the feedback related to the learning continuity plan. So at this time, I would like to invite our facilitators to share a couple of items.
Lisa, I just have a question here. Sure. The questions for the superintendent they were collecting during the breakout sessions, if people still have additional questions for the superintendent, what's the sort of deadline for submitting them and how can they do that?
So PAC members can provide that information to us by tomorrow, close of business tomorrow. And we can make sure that we have generated all of those questions. So by close of business on Friday, the 28th, that will capture the list of superintendent questions that we have.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
And I say that only because we are required to provide a response prior to the upcoming school board meeting for public comment. So we want to provide adequate time to turn that information back to the PAC.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I might, I'd like to go ahead and ask our facilitator, Clarissa Alva, to please go ahead and share a couple of items that were discussed in your group.
Hi, everyone. Our group was wonderful. I loved how they really thought about everyone, and that seemed to be a key theme in our discussion is what's happening at one site. Maybe we're offering resources at one site, but there might be another site that the district doesn't think that has the need, but really does. So having that continuity across the district and resources available that are the same at every site. Mental health came up a lot, but also I think a key theme was breaking the barriers systematically that have stopped families from succeeding or having as many options. Well, with distance learning, that has been lifted, but how can we continue to keep those barriers down when we return to the classroom? So an example of that would be transportation is no longer an issue when you're doing distance learning, but the minute that we go back to the school site, that becomes a barrier for some. And so how can we systematically keep those barriers down? And then as far as going back to the school, the thought was just, it's so hard to even comprehend right now, but going back, we can't just do business as usual because we're really going to need support with the transition to go back to what's quote unquote normal, because we've been in this distance learning now for quite some time. So to go back, we need support and help. We had so much other wonderful information to share. But really it was about access to all and supporting all kids. And, now we're in this idea of technology is so important and we're using technology, but some parents and even students just aren't into technology. Maybe they need to think or learn it in a different way. So having multiple modes to access learning, not just Google Classroom on the computer, but maybe having paper and pencil for some as well.
Thank you, Clarissa. I really appreciate that. And thank you to your group of participants. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Kimber, if you would share maybe 2 items from your group, please.
Actually, Kimber and I agreed that I would go ahead and share out for our group.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, we had a small but mighty group, and to kind of add on to what Clarissa said about the technology not being for everybody, that some students learn better with the hard copy textbook, and even though students did pick up textbooks, they're not being really used often, if at all. So things like hard copy textbook, paper and pen, whiteboards, tangible tactile things that can be held, and not only does it just reduce the screen time and the wear and tear on the eyes, but just also seems to be more engaging for some students than just only being on a screen. So that part of it was in agreement with Clarissa and her group, the visuals and hard copy of things. And then engagement was a big issue. So also kind of related to technology is strategies that teachers may need some additional strategies to engage their students, to get them to participate and be on and want to be on and look forward to getting on into their classroom. And then related to that is also that some teachers seem to have more control over their Google Class or their Zoom classroom than others. And at times when there's a lot of behavior issues, students can lose focus. So those were two kind of big items, as well as just general technology issues and in general, Zoom crashing, not being able to get on, those kinds of things.
Thank you, Christina and Kimber, and thank you to your group as well. We appreciate that. Maria Godoy.
Hi, everyone. In our group, it was like a long discussion, but one of the key points that we touched, it was like having consistency. So some of the students, they really need that consistency, especially when they need support. When we transition to in-person classroom, they say that having that consistency from right now to when we are in person, it's going to be a key.